Good morning, everybody. John Spiopoli here with GAI Insights, bringing you your essential, important, or optional news, putting thoughts in your head, time in your day. We have Luda Kopakina, Adam Rappaport, and our special guest star, Ram Kanamaraja, who's the CEO, founder of Colaberry. So we have a lot going on today, and a lot of interesting stuff happening over the weekend. So let's start off with this first one, which is second.
Ankash is not here.
We have transforming customer complaint resolution with Gen AI and Databricks at Italgas, one of the largest suppliers of energy in Europe. And it goes through how they've fundamentally transformed from manual workflows using a combination of things you would expect: unified data integration, intelligent history analysis with RAG, and AI-powered resolution guidance. Kind of a fun little graphic in here as well, showing how they did it. So what'd you think, Adam?
Luda, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, was it Luda? My mistake. What'd you think,
Yes.
Luda? Yes, sorry.
I was, yes, thank you, John. I was between optional and important, and think it is important. Customer complaint resolution is one of the largest areas where the application of Gen AI will be very well felt. And this case goes through the history of how they did it, starting in just the data, putting the data layer together and the like, using RAG. The only thing about this article, and it's a very good use case and a benchmark technically for other people to take a look at. The only missing piece is, even though they highlight the benefits and the impact in the category here at the end, they don't give any numbers. So it's not clear whether the improvement was 1%, 30%, whatever. So that is a problem with this article, but other than that, I found it useful. So I believe that it should be important.
All right, we have a vote for important here. What do you think, Ram?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely important. One big reason for that is this is a utility industry use case. Utility industry in general is slow to catch up on technology. That's a general perception and also the reality. This is a great use case for the leaders in that industry to kind of like look at how they can bring the efficiencies. And not only that, this use case is done for one of the largest gas utilities in Europe, handling over 90,000 complaints. And it also talks about how their current systems are all in different data in different systems like Salesforce, MDM, and other systems, and where the customer support has to juggle between all these systems and waste time. So the adoption of Gen AI along with RAG allowed them to unify all those things and increase the efficiencies. So I do agree with Luda that they did not provide like specific improvements, but in general, they're talking about increased efficiency gains, customer satisfaction, and also they have a continuous learning as part of a system that is continuously learning to get better. So it's a good use case with all the details. It is pretty detailed in terms of how they went about it. So I would say it's definitely important.
All right, we have some detail in terms of how they did it and also what the impact has been. We're looking for numbers here. Headed for important. What do you think here, Paul? Or Adam, either.
Go ahead, Adam.
Oh yeah, thank you, Paul. Yeah, I would go for important as well. I almost want to call it optional, as Luda said, because they just say that they gained efficiency and they don't put any numbers behind it, which is a bit disappointing given everything else here. There was one thing I did really appreciate, which is the actual tech stack they're looking at in this example is a combination of Salesforce, Databricks, and Microsoft Azure. And you just have to think about the number of enterprises that are in that exact scenario. it's worthwhile to at least bring that to the attention as a use case, even if the numbers aren't there.
However, I want to chime in here. They're using, essentially, it's a little bit dated case in terms of the application of tech right there on ChatGPT 3.5. And this is a case where they still got quite a bit of improvements, it sounds like, but it talks about, it talks to the issue that we've been raising, that you don't want to commit too deeply into one platform. So they on Azure, they can change it, right? But they're still reporting 3.5, right? So they're not planning to change it. So it's interesting angle to this case as to what you're being glued to particular platform or particular stack.
Yeah, I mean, in an enterprise, they need like legal to approve or to adapt some of these aspects. So they may not, they will definitely not be moved. They'll probably always stay a version behind. Please.
All right, looks like we're headed for important. Nice use case. We like a little more, but we're going to put this in the important category. All right, next we have a story about really interesting story, I think, about turbocharging premium audit capabilities. This is a huge issue, going down from days or hours down to minutes or seconds in terms of Verisk, a massive supplier to the insurance industry. Really, actually, a classmate of mine, Scott, just grew this company into a multi-billion-dollar juggernaut, getting more and more information and capability for different insurance providers. And here we've got this audit capability now also coming from the supplier. So very interesting case study, I think. What do you think, Ram?
Yeah, definitely very interesting case study. I feel that this is the use case that's definitely important, maybe even essential, because when I read it, one, it's comprehensive and they go step by step of all the technology stack they used and the problems they had and how they had to work around or solve those problems. And also, it is probably as close as it gets at this point of time to service as software concept, because previously they were providing this auditing service with humans going through this tens of thousands of classification guides and hundreds of bulletins and like providing the feedback. And that the entire service is like now basically provided as software. They talk about reduction in processing time and gaining from anywhere from 96 to 98%. That's unbelievable, right? It's that's a huge gain. So it's worth looking into this use case because it's very comprehensive. But one caveat though, they just tested it one customer, one beta customer. However, they're expanding it to roll out to 15,000 users as part of their scale up. And if you look at the authors, like pretty much the entire Verisk, which Verisk, by the way, is one of the largest analytics and intelligence provider to insurance companies in more than 20 countries. So it's the backbone, one of the backbone companies for the insurance industry, and a lot of their experts are named in the article. So they are pretty positive and like gung ho about like putting it out there. So definitely an important, if not maybe even essential.
Yeah, truly. Scott Stevenson was the guy who built this company up, and he is originally from BCG, and he just kept buying more and more sources of data, or as he put it to me, as additional signal that would help their clients and insurance get a better outcome. So now they're going up into the business process intelligence layer. Very interesting. Yeah, market dominant, hugely successful company. What do you think here? Luda, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like this. We talk about AWS being the good place to look for good use cases. This is one of the best, with the impact that Ram talked about, it's quite good. Important or essential for me, John. And this is an area where it would hit essentially everybody, right, in this particular industry. So I think it's important to essential.
Yeah, if we look back to our wins framework, it's both the function, customer service, as well as the industry, are both high wins intensive in the crucible for us. So what do you think here, Paul?
Yeah, I'm so anxious for us to get alignment on our final form factor for case study. So this feels like a 8 out of 10 or 3 pieces of chalk or top quartile. So important in my mind.
Yeah, John, I'll jump in as well. I think it's right on the edge of essential. I think the only thing that kept it from being essential was probably that, I mean, it's unlikely that someone would get caught out or sort of caught on the back foot by not having known about this, right? It's a very powerful use case, but I'm not sure if even a very powerful use case is necessarily something that like they have to read, but like prioritize this week versus this weekend when they might be able to catch up on it otherwise.
All right, so we're going for important. Sounds good to me. Important on this one. Let's get to our next one, which is the rise of browser use agents and convergence proxies beating up OpenAI's operator. Well, these are things that are out there scraping and providing input to the models so you can get the data you need. What do you think here, Adam?
Yeah, this is probably optional for our AI leader. I actually, interestingly enough, just I think in the last week here, tried the convergence proxy, and I put it through its paces. I made a really basic prompt. I tried the low effort test, and I basically said, go to my Twitter, my X page, go find my list that has this name, and start liking posts on it and making intelligent commentary in the replies to see if it could literally open up a browser and navigate as if it were me. And it prompted me for my login and my password, and it brought up a browser, and it went off and actually started doing it. And it got about 2 through my list before I think it started to get confused and it came off the rails a little bit. So this is a very promising area. It's effectively robotic process automation. It's using the large language model to control and script from views of what your browser can do. But that's very powerful when you think that then we get to select what it has access to, and we can really enable it to use a ton of websites on our behalf. There's some very powerful use cases that will come from it. The fact that this is $20, you can use it 5 times a day for free, as opposed to $200 from OpenAI's operator. Yeah, I think they're eating their lunch, quite frankly. And I look forward to OpenAI responding, because I certainly don't pay for their operator at this point, but I'd love to try it as this market gets more competitive. So probably optional for now, but this space of computer use is definitely one to keep an eye on.
All right, super important area, but optional in this particular instance. What do you think? Ron, what do you think?
Yes, I agree with Adam. It's optional thing. It indicates like what the AI agents could do, but it's not operational. Definitely not useful in an enterprise space. Like all the list that was given, they tried to break it down into what is useful for the individual user versus enterprise, but enterprise is nowhere here. Definitely optional for our leaders.
All right, I want to pick up the pace a little bit. Anything big, Luda, Paul, in terms of keeping us from putting this optional?
No, optional, John. But this is, as Adam pointed out, this is the beginnings of really putting agents together as separate programs and the like. So, and giving them access to the right places on your computer. So this is a very important area to watch, but optional in this case.
Yeah, but I do think it's optional article, but RPA 2.0 is something needs to be on the AI leader's screen.
Absolutely. All these operators and stuff. Yeah.
Yep, no question. It's important for the topic, but this particular thing we're going to do optional. All right, we have McKinsey. This is kind of a twofer. There's a short article, which is a pointer to 26-page report, which is a compendium of different articles that that McKinsey has put together. The familiar, tired almost make me want to throw up title Beyond the Hype. Now there's a creative, way into this thing, capturing the potential of AI and Gen AI in tech, media, and telecom. Although the numbers are spectacular, they go through, it's multi-trillions in terms of, and they, the impact on the economy, and they add it up from hundreds of billions in different industries, whether it's tech or media and telecom. And back to our framework, we think this notion of wins is huge, right? Words, images, numbers, and sound. So, really interesting area. I think, obviously, from important supply. Luda, where are you on this? You usually come down hard on the consultants.
Yeah, and it's dated, right? So some of the articles are 23, some are 24, but this is really dated. But having said that, it's good compendium and good information. I put it as important. If you open the PDF, John, and go to page 12, there is a little chart that has as a percentage of spend where what are the areas that will be most impactful, and it's a very good chart that kind of gets your attention. I think that's an important tidbit. And then I really like the dive into the telco operations as a use case, as a sort of industry use case, and where they can see the impact of Gen AI. Telcos are very competitive and very extremely competitive, and piecing that out I thought was very helpful in overall. So I think it's important.
All right, others. Yes, I didn't have the PDF open. This was taking me a little time here. I will go ahead and open that. What do you think?
I had this optional just because it's so dated, and I found it lazy just to take 15 articles, some of which were a year ago. I do like the chart Luda mentioned. I think the chart is important, but I would not want our AI leader to open up a 115-page PDF.
All right, so we have a optional here versus important. Let's get on to page 12.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I don't know if a year-old use case is a showstopper for a tech leader to, especially in an enterprise, to look at, because the enterprise is usually like a year behind, right? So they need to convince their executives, and they need to figure out, they need to provide like use cases that succeeded so they can adopt it. It can be, from my perspective, it's an important one, especially if they are looking to provide evidence of successes. So that's my view.
All right, and Vivek is making the same point. Well, not the same point, but talking about why it was important for him in terms of figuring out how to.
Yeah, I think that was in the previous article.
Oh, that was from the previous article?
Yeah.
That we rated optional.
All right, gotcha. All right, other folks. So we got one important, one optional. I'm feeling rather democratic this morning.
I think we got two importance now and one optional, and I'll give it a third important to make sure we tip the scales. Yeah, it's got some value to it. I'll leave it at that. I mean, McKinsey is a recognized name, although I'll leave it at that. It is a very important sector. It has some good metrics in it, and I agree with Ram that even if it's a year ago, the fact is the space is starting to mature, and we're going to have use cases from a year ago, 2 years ago, that are become relevant to certain industries and still prove that these people were out front early and they were realizing these results. So yeah, I think overall it's worth, maybe I'd lower back pocket it, for Tim, but probably an important article.
And it summarizes areas, right? It talks about customer support and how and what is happening. So it does trending reasonably well. So it's, for an AI leader, this is one spot, sort of pick up historically and then look at what's happening right now. So I still think it's very important article.
All right, we're headed for important. Sounds good. Good compendium. Sorry, Paul. They have to open up the biggie. And here we have next article is introducing the SWE Lancer benchmark. Basically, can agents go out and make $1 million worth of services just by the quality of what they're up to. So, what do you think here, Adam?
So I think this is probably important, not so much for the benchmark itself, but what it illustrates. It's important to understand. So basically what this did is it went out and found real world tasks from places like Upwork. And they made this benchmark of 14,000 tasks that all total, if a piece of software could do all 14,000 of them, or sorry, 1,400, it would effectively earn $1 million. It's $1 million worth of business in terms of Upwork tasks. And most of the models out there, I think at best, were doing less than half of that, right? So the important point really, which is the findings to this date, is that the models and what they're capable of in terms of real world tasks that software engineers need to do, they're still lacking. And not just that the jobs are safe, but that if you have these plans of replacing your software engineers, you need a little bit of a reality check perhaps, because we're not there yet. That being said, this benchmark certainly puts the stake in the ground, and people are going to go after it aggressively. So it's a really interesting benchmark. I think it's potentially important for our AI leader to be aware of, and more importantly, to be aware of the current landscape in terms of the capabilities to not be able to deliver on the real world tasks that are needed for software engineering.
Yeah, the full completion rate was in the 20s and 30s, if I remember right, and so pretty low. Interesting. Part of that whole conversation of when are we going to have an autonomous, million or billion dollar company just write some code and all of a sudden have revenue coming in. Yeah, I mean, what do you think here? Oh, go ahead.
So one important observation is this, right? So they have about 26.2 success rate in coding tasks and 44.9% for management tasks.
John, it was that table there. You just scroll past it with the green and the blues.
So it's very interesting for me about they are saying that the project management close to 50% of it or 45% of it can be done more efficiently using AI, Gen AI, right? Whereas when it's related to coding tasks, it's 26.2%. Even though the percentage looks like much less, it also represents the mundane tasks like writing test cases or like doing a lot of grunt work, right, as part of the coding. So it represents a significant percentage of the coding, and also a significant percentage of project the management itself. So in a way, this gives a directionality for the enterprise that they have to look at it pretty seriously and understand what part of their the coding or the coding in general they should focus on adapting Gen AI for automation, and what they need to what they cannot automate, because the complex tasks obviously cannot be automated.
All right, Ram, took us all around Robin Hood's bar, but you didn't open the door. What's the rating?
Rating is still optional, but
all right, I'm beating it to death. All right,
yeah.
We're heading toward the end of our time here. And Luda, Paul, what do you think?
I actually thought important. I'm with Adam. I really think that leaders need to know that this exists. They don't need to read the report, but they do need to know that this benchmark exists and benchmark against it when they are going after certain applications. So I really think that it's good to know.
All right, Paul, where are we?
Optional.
I'm afraid I'm going to come with PB here. The big bear says optional. Optional it is. All right, we're going.
Well, here we go. The audience doesn't agree with you.
Well, as they say, you mistake this for democracy. All right, here we go. We have our last article today from BCG, how to collaborate with vendors. Hey, a vendor talking about how to collaborate with vendors. I bet it's not going to say fire them. All right, Ram, what do you think here?
So sorry, the BC. So I think it's optional. This basically talking about that you have to work with vendors. It's like new information. Leaders already know they've been working with vendors for forever. So it's nothing new information.
Well, what they highlight, I think, is to say that when you work with vendors, your focus improves, your results improve, and you do it maybe a little faster. So it's interesting. I didn't quite believe them on the faster because it's usually longer, but in terms of the impact and focus, getting vendors in place, or several vendors, and coordination makes you focus. So for sure. So, but optional in my book also. I agree.
All right, Adam, Paul, where are you?
Paul, where is he? Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you already left. Goodness.
I think optional as well. I was on the fence for important because it's interesting to think about that concept of multi-vendor as well, right? And not to just sort of get the guidance and advice of one firm. And but mostly I think it states the obvious and it makes a case for doing business with BCG. So could probably take a pass on it.
Yeah, but this is based on a survey, John, right? So they took the folks who totally implemented it themselves versus the folks that used the vendors. I found it interesting because it's quantifiable results, but optional still.
So we're going to give that one an optional. I thought we we're heading to optional, so I went ahead and updated. Here we have our tote for the day. We have 3 importance and 3 optionals, transforming the customer, mostly around cases, if you will, and then beyond the hype, capturing, this is really a day of evidence of use, if you will. This notion of, the audit, the transforming the customer, and then the compendium of cases and ways of thinking about this in the Beyond the Hype article. And we left the benchmarks, the collaboration, and the rise of browser use agents as optional. All right, anything else for our audience here today?
So you might want to talk about the Learning Lab tonight, John.
Yes, I don't know what it is. I thought Paul was going to get into it, so I
believe Alden with customgpt.ai is going to take us through
yes, of course.
a research assistant.
Through all of the deep learning or deep thinking models and compare and contrast, I think.
Yes, so Alden Di Rosario, CEO, founder of customgpt.ai, he has his own research robot that he has put out in the marketplace for some time. He's going to take us through how that compares to, the fantastic announcements that really happened over the past couple of weeks in terms of these deep research, capabilities. So I think should be very interesting, very timely for any of us, curious about the insight business. Any other announcements?
Nope.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Ram, thanks so much. Adam, staying up late. Luda, thank you. See you all tomorrow, or maybe see you tonight at the Learning Lab, 7 o'clock Eastern. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.